just 14 and 8, my brother and I, before everything became a disaster. Schools at the time turned into literal military camps and forced students to volunteer for the military. We knew it was basically suicide. We stopped attending soon after my father's friend's boy died in a kamikaze. I missed the days when we didn't have to worry about a war. We would play in the brook next to the field every day, then watch the sunset together as a family. We recently read in the Chu Quran that the nation bombed some American military base a few days ago. My father told me it was not a wise choice, and that we were poking a bear, or something along those lines. My brother Rico didn't completely understand at the time and went back to playing with his puzzle. All I remember thinking was that I hope nothing bad happened to us.
God save us, everyone will be burned in 7,000 suns for the sins of our hand, sins of our tongue, the sins of our father, the sins of our young.
He knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Early this morning, we were awakened by a town local, screaming as if he were about to die. News is that the Americans were attacking mainland Japan, with a massive aerial assault of bombs painting the nation. My father quickly sprung into action, making way to a friend's home who he knew had a bunker on his property, in hopes of receiving a life-altering favor.
I use the dead wood to make the fire rise. The blood of innocence burning in the skies.
Burning in the Skies is the first song from Linkin Park's fourth album, 2010's A Thousand Suns, an album panned at the time by their fan base as them selling out, leaving behind the abrasive yet unique new rock sounds that paved the way to their success in favor of a more experimental, alternative electronica rock. The name of the track is a reference to nuclear warfare and how the practice leads to innocent lives being taken for the sake of success. As the study of nuclear warfare grows exponentially, the concept of mutually assured destruction only becomes more probable. If you are to go as far as to destroy the world for the sake of our ideologies, perhaps we don't deserve this world after all.
I'm swimming in the smoke for bridges I have burned. So don't apologize for losing what I don't deserve. What I don't deserve.
The aforementioned line may also allude to the concept of human relations. Burning a bridge, as to cut all relations, and sulking in the aftermath of the fire, admitting this mistake is none to feel pity for, as in the end we never deserved such a relationship, a message that even I can personally relate to on a deeper level.
What I don't deserve. Use the dead wood to make the fire rise. The blood of innocence burning in the skies.
I could only imagine what people across the country are going through, losing everything they love, destruction and death all around them. Why us? What did we do?
The second song of the album is When They Come For Me, a track specifically addressing the critical responses by the band's fans preceding the release of 2007's Minutes to Midnight, a record that is regarded as being Linkin Park's first step outside of the world of new rock. Lyrically, the track depicts the band sending a message to all the people who called them sellouts for evolving their sound. Mike Shinoda's masterful lyrics references other songs of theirs, and even pays homage to other artists such as Eminem and Jay-Z, all in the effort to convey one message: we are Linkin Park, and we will develop and evolve our sound as we please. And if you don't like the road we're taking, then... In the mostly rap-dominated song, Chester uses his 2 cents to repeat the message of his own. When the haters eventually come to criticize this record, the band will already have reached new heights, completely disassociating themselves with the success of Hypertheory and Meteora, and establishing the band as major figures in modern alternative rock.
Our mother urged us to grab as much food and blankets as we could. We had no telling when the Americans would come nor where from, but we knew we had to shelter. We made our way to a small bunker built by my father's friend. It looked like a giant concrete rock built over a dugout piece of the earth, with a thick wooden latch to seal the opening. It was just big enough to fit all 5 of us. Days went by, with no sight of radiation. Hour by hour, our nerves bounce off the stone walls and back into our conscience. We were forbidden to leave, unless it was to relieve ourselves. That is, until we began to run out of water. Mr. Kyoko, my father's friend, was too cowardly to go on the mission himself, so my father grabbed our 2 empty buckets and began his march back to our home.
You say you're not gonna fight, 'cause no one will fight for you.
The track Robot Boy gives one single message in 2 different perspectives. In the eyes of somebody suffering from mental illness, such as chronic depression, their world is deprived from joy and meaning, leaving them to grow lifeless through their suffering. As a robot devoid of emotion and will, without an immediate person to convey the desire for one's existence, it becomes difficult to reciprocate such desires.
You think compassion's a flaw, and you'll never let it show.
In another perspective, one can perceive the Robot Boy as being the instigators of civilian casualties during wartime efforts, the assault of innocent people associated with the opposition, a practice that a century ago would be seen as unethical, as a cruel way to instill a lack of necessary human empathy into a soldier, a tragic reality that plagues modern warfare practices. However, if the greatest danger to humanity is humanity itself, it is up to the Robot Boy to come to the realization that life may only improve if we gather the courage and fix it ourselves. Regardless of your perceived perspective, Robot Boy is a track about realizing that you can't wait for someone to come around and mend your own troubles. Rather, we need to accept that we, and only we, can mold our own fate.
Someday, the weight of the world will give you the strength to go.
About 20 to 30 minutes go by, and no one sees him. The worst case scenario began playing in my head, but my mother calmed my nerves as she held me closely. As my head begins to calm itself, a bright, blinding flash of whiteness overwhelms my sight, complemented with the greatest tremors any human has ever felt. The terror and realization sets in.
Just hold on.
Hours went by before a word was spoken. The pure silence was a stark contrast from the deafening sounds of death emitting just meters above our very own heads moments ago. We woke up the next morning to no sign of Mr. Kyoko. We exit the bunker to see what has become of the world we knew. We find Mr. Kyoko staring at an unrecognizable pile of wood and stone. A home reduced to rubble. The last words we ever heard him utter was, "There is nothing left. Leave me to expire."
Waiting for the end to come, wishing I had strength to stand.
By analyzing the lyrics of Waiting for the End, you may come across various different themes, from love to depression to grief. However, regardless of how you depict the lyrics, there is one overarching theme to it all: finding meaning in a meaningless world. Regardless if you seek purpose in life through religious philosophy, there are countless people across the world who struggle every day to move on after losing something close to them, whether it be a person, a passion, or a reason to live.
I know what it takes to move on. I know how it feels to lie.
When life isn't going to plan, and the puzzle is beginning to fall apart, it is a tremendous task to pick up the pieces and try to make sense of it all. Without something to strive for in life, all you're left with is a world devoid of purpose, leaving you behind to overthink and regret every choice you've made up to this point, or ponder over outcomes that were out of your control. However, even when it seems there's nothing else left for you, there's always something or someone waiting for you. A moment that will change your paradigm and give you the right perspective. But for now, pick up those pieces, march forward, and hold on to those dreams like they were never dead. Your time will come soon enough.
The three of us ventured our way to the center of town, knowing very well that sparing ourselves from witnessing what was left of our home was the best option. There's nowhere left to go but forward. Horror and awe overwhelms us, yet without a tear to shed, seeing the destruction and death of our surroundings.
Just like many songs on this record, Blackout is a song that is very much up to interpretation. The track could be a double metaphor for both the aftermath and the assault of mainland Japan, as well as regretting one's mistakes. Those suffering from mental illness may not be able to easily relate to the concept of the night being your enemy. As day morphs to night, we slowly begin to lose our right mind, leaving us susceptible to emotion, and by no means aided by the perpetual feeling of isolation that accompanies the late hours.
I'm stuck in this bed you made, alone with a sinking feeling.
These feelings may lead to making grave mistakes, whether it be to our physical bodies, relationships, or our surroundings. We wake the next day with a clear mind and witness the damage of our doings. In the wake of realization, you vow to never lose yourself again, suppress your feelings, and never black out again.
You gotta get it inside, push it back down, black out, ready to ride.
The byproduct of the atomic bombings were the loss of an estimated 200,000 civilians, not even taking into account radiation sickness. The event nearly caused the nation's population growth to halt, leaving a once culturally rich nation in utter shambles. As millions of people exited their bunkers, some could not bear witnessing the damages. Some resorted to suicide, while others faced the reality, accepting the beginning of a new world.
If you future gazing out, the past to override. Come down, come down.
We find a small community of survivors who take us in. They provided us with warm food to eat and temporary shelter in multiple small bunkers. All the men in the village would spend every waking hour rebuilding everything, while the women kept them well fed and watched over the children as they would play in the lake. I began to think that maybe there was hope for us, to rebuild what we thought was long gone.
The time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop, stop, stop.
The 10th track, Wretches and Kings, proposes an act of resistance. In the perspective of people in power, Shinoda admits the disadvantage society has in surviving a nuclear fate, and how the kings will do whatever it takes to ensure their survival before others.
The people up top push the people down low, get down and obey every word.
In a world where mutually assured destruction can occur at the press of a button, we citizens are forced to sit back while our higher-ups play nuclear chess with each other. To resist this conclusion, the lyrics suggest that we the people must protest this manipulation. We are not pawns or statistics. We are the people.
We the animals take control, hear us now, clear and show, wretches and kings we come by law.
The final call to action is followed by a segment of free speech activist Mario Savio's address during the Berkeley free speech movement of 1964. Savio addresses the people to push back against the oppression, forcefully halt and cut off what gives the kings power, and begin to establish a new world, a fair world where we can determine our fates.
From the front to the back and the side to side, if you feel what I feel, put 'em up real high. Front to the back and the side to side, if you feel what I feel, put 'em up real high.
Apply all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop, and you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
The following nights had some of the best sleep we'd gotten in weeks. I was woken one night to the sounds of weeping coming from the outside, mothers closely holding their lifeless and frail children. At first, I assumed it was some awful contagious sickness going around, and I returned back into the bunker to inform my mother. I opened the latch to the sight of Rico, with patches of his skin red as can be, staring at me with a nearly unfamiliar sense of pain and suffering. Radiation.
I come to this magnificent house of worship tonight because my conscience leaves me no other choice. A true revolution of values will lay hand on the world order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just. This business of burning human beings with napalm, filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of injecting poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of peoples normally humane, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. Cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. Cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. Cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love.
We scavenge the community, asking dozens of people if they know of any doctor in the area. Another mother of a sick child informs us of one a few kilometers east from here, but to not bother, as there's no use. Both in denial, we venture eastward anyway and come across a small canopy with a half-dozen people lying in cots. A nurse examines Rico and breaks to us a reality we refuse to accept.
When you were standing in the wake of devastation, when you were waiting on the edge of the unknown.
Throughout the entirety of 1,000 Suns, tragedy is an overwhelming theme. Such tragedies may be interpreted in different forms, from the devastation of war, to freedom, to mental well-being, and to loss. No human being is ever going to walk through life without these trials, these heartaches, these insufferable lows.
Do you feel cold and lost in desperation? You build up hope, but failure's all you've known.
One of the greatest challenges any human has to endure in life is loneliness, an odd inevitability considering the population of over 7.7 billion. But loneliness is not always manifested in the physical realm, rather through lack of relatability, understanding, and support through struggles. You try and try again, but always find yourself back at the bottom. The weight of your burdens and failures keep you from reaching the end of your suffering. And the most unfortunate aspect of it all is that there is many who can't cope with these burdens and resort to substance abuse, self-harm, and suicide. It's a fact of life that many choose to ignore, simply because it's too awkward to mention or discuss. When one has finally met rock bottom, and nobody's coming for them, there's ultimately only one choice, at least one logical choice.
Remember all the sadness and frustration, and let it go. Let it go.
As much as many wish for their lives to be fixed by some magical occurrence or savior, there comes to a point where they must realize there is only one person who has the ability to make the changes they so desire: themselves. A journey that won't come without doubt and setbacks, but a journey that will give you life again. Though it is your own journey, it is not one done alone. It's a sensitive subject, but help is out there. Just because we lose our homes, loved ones, passions, relationships, liveliness, or ourselves, the one thing that you can't lose is hope. And as long as you're still breathing, there's always hope. So fuck whatever is holding you back, and let it go.
Do you feel cold and lost in desperation?
I vividly recall my final days with Rico, as brief as they were. His weak body barely let him do much but play his puzzles. Every waking hour, I was by his side. After countless unbearable to watch bouts of pain, we carried him outside to watch what we knew would be his last sunset. I used to think the sun was a gift, a guiding light that gave us hope that there will be a tomorrow. Now all I think of when looking at it is the blinding brightness it emits. The power of one is enough to sustain life, but 1,000 can decimate it all in an instant, mercilessly.
Despite the protests we fought, coalitions we assembled, or worries we professed, it has always remained the same. We will always be living in a world constantly near extinction, and there's no way to fight it.
God bless us, everyone. We're a broken people living under loaded gun, and it can't be outfought, it can't be outdone, it can't be outmatched, it can't be outrun. No!
Mankind has roamed this earth for nearly 6 million years. What was once a simple creature evolved into an extremely intelligent force to be reckoned with. The chances of a civilization being able to evolve to this level without a natural extinction to occur is extremely rare. But little did we know that our annihilation would not come at the hands of Mother Nature, but of ourselves.
Like memories in cold decay, transmissions echoing away, far from the world of you and I, where oceans bleed into the sky.
A world rich in life and history, gone in an instant, without hesitation. And in the grand scheme of the universe, everything we once knew is concluded like a small blip, a faded light in the distance reflected into the stars. Massive, yet so insignificant.
Memories in cold decay, transmissions echoing away, far from the world of you and I, where oceans bleed into the sky.
What never made sense to me was, why us? We were nothing but innocent citizens of a land that had no control over what gave us power. We did not attack your people. We did not kill innocent lives. You did. You killed us all. Why do we have to be the sacrifice to achieve your vengeance? You destroyed our lives, our futures, and the people we loved. The very hell you so fear so deeply is now closer to you than ever before, as you rained it upon us. You made this world hell, and now our only escape is what is beyond this realm, somewhere up there among the stars. In that case, lift me up. Let me go.
Lift me up, let me go. Lift me up, let me go. Lift
I held the same sentiment as I always had, even years later, to keep moving forward. After the drop, we slowly but surely put the pieces back together, and a new life for many people began. True, some pieces may be forever lost to time, but, well, there really is no but to it. Nothing in life is going to come without struggle, without challenge, without adversity. Life doesn't spare anyone from its wrath. It will try to alter your perception and sight of your goals. But with love, all that is bad in the world brings just as much good. When life leaves us blind, love keeps us kind.
When you feel you're alone, cut off from this cruel world, your instincts telling you to run. Remember you're loved, and you always will be. This melody will bring you right back home when life leaves us blind. Love keeps us kind. It keeps us kind.
Really the thing that was the problem for me. I mean, a lot of my stuff I was carrying around for a long time, and then it was also like the relationship, honestly, between my ex-wife and I at the time really played a huge role in kind of how I viewed the world and kind of how I secluded myself in a lot of ways from people, because when your home life is so weird, you kind of don't want people to see a lot of it. So you kind of, you just let people see a little bit of it. But when you do that, you kind of find yourself really not knowing who you are. I knew that it got to a point where the person that I knew who I was in my mind and in my soul, I wasn't being that person outwardly in the world. And so that kind of fucks with you a little bit. I think that was a perfect combination for a lot of things where I needed to, reevaluate how I wanted to live my life. And so the band came and helped me out, and I got rid of a lot of things and replaced a lot of things with some.
I think that was a really important time.
With some good people around me and good, positive experiences that weren't just the band.